All right, let's understand a few extra concepts. Map, filter, and arrow functions. Map and filter are sort of helper functions when it comes to arrays, and arrow functions are just another way to write functions like this. Maybe let's start with the easy one, which is arrow functions. Until now, we have written functions like this. Function AB, return A plus B. And then I can call const answer equal to sum1 to console.log answer. This works. This is totally fine. You can always write functions like this. But a lot of times functions are written like this. Now look at the syntax and how it changed from this to this. Const sum equal to a function with these arguments, arrow, and then curly braces. Both are almost exactly the same. They are not exactly the same. They're the same in this context, but eventually when you will write functions, whenever you're passing things as callbacks, right? Whenever you're passing functions as callbacks, then their meaning can change from time to time. Not worried about that yet. Right now, anytime you see this, don't get overwhelmed. Anytime you see, something like this, it is just another way to write functions. You could totally write this as well. Cool. That's the first thing I wanted to cover. Arrow functions. Harkirat, is there a real difference in this and this? Yes, there is a difference. Specifically, there is a difference how this gets binded in this and this. Well, this gets binded in this and this. But what is this, Harkirat? We will get to eventually. Don't worry about the the real difference between them, but do worry about the syntax. You understand how this is different from this structurally. Cool. That's one. Map and filter. Let's get into the difficult ones now. Okay. Now, let's say I give you a problem statement. Always good to learn things via problem statement. The problem statement is given an array, give me back a new array in which every value is multiplied by 2. Cool. Which means if the input is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what is the output? It is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. How do you convert this input to this output is the question. There are dumb ways of doing it. There are normal ways of doing it. I wouldn't call them dumb. Whatever is the standard solution that you think for this problem is the right solution, which is you can, be like const input equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then from here onwards, you start solving your problem. You can be like const new array equal to empty array, and then iterate over the initial array. And be like new array dot push initial array of I into 2. This totally works. If I now log new array, try to code this yourself as well. Okay. Assuming you don't know what map is, what filter is, how can you convert or what's called transform this input array to this output array? Multiply every value by 2. Cool. If I change the problem statement, can I multiply every value by 3? Hopefully that's straightforward as well. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. So this is one way of solving this problem. But the JavaScript heads thought, this is very ugly. So let's make it slightly cleaner. Debatable if it is cleaner or not. But here is another way to solve the same problem. The input is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you need to transform it into 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We know one thing about JavaScript. Okay, bhaiya, in JavaScript, a function can actually take another function as input, right? And then you can actually call this function. If this was A, I can actually call A here. So a function can take another function as input in JavaScript. What if this transformation that we want, I define in a function. I say कि भैया function give me an input I, which is a number, and I return back to you I into 2. The transformation that we need to do, I wrote inside a function. Let me call this function f, or whatever. You can call this function whatever you want. I am calling it f. I defined a function. I said I take an input number and I return that number into 2. Now that I have this, wouldn't it be nice if there was a function called map? Let's say there was a global function which took number 1, this array as an input, number 2, this function as an input, f, and the output that it gave me was this array right here. Wouldn't that be nice? Okay, I can create an output array with the initial input and a transformation function, and then some other function, some global function called map will worry about how do I take each one of these values, how do I put them in the transformation function, and how do I create a new array from it. That is what the map function lets you do. The syntax we will see very soon, but what is the goal? The goal is that given an initial array input 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, given a transformation function f, which in our case is function take a value as input, return a into 2. Given these two things, r comma f, can we create this third function, which is just r f passed into a global function? We don't have to create this. This is provided to us. We just have to give it two inputs, the array and the transformation function, and it gives us the final output, which is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That is what map lets you do. Rather than doing all these things that we have done here, I can simply be like, bhaiya, const, okay, let's just say other solution. Let me just comment this whole solution out. Other solution is function transform I, return I into 2. Just define a function. I can call this function normally. Transform 2, const answer equal to this. If I log answer, what will I see? I will see 4 on the screen. So this is just a normal function. Thankfully, JavaScript said, if you have a transformation function and you have an initial input, give me both of them. I will transform each one of these values and give you the new output. So now if I call map with r comma transform, would be nice if this gave me the output of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. This is not the right syntax. Would be nice if this was the function, but the function looks slightly different. Map exists as a function on the array class. So I can actually do something like this. By the way, this should have been input, but you get the idea. I can do something like this: input dot map transformation function. And that's all. Const answer equal to this, console.log answer. And now if you look at the output, it says 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, which means in just one line of code, effectively 4 lines of code, but assuming transform is a sandbox, which you cannot know well. Okay, 4 lines of code. In 1, 2, 3, 4 lines of code, I was able to do the same thing that here took me, 4 lines of code, but hopefully you get this is slightly cleaner. Now it's debatable what is more cleaner, what is not, but this is used. Whenever you're being told to transform arrays, you use map. And if you look at the syntax, what does it do? Feel free to ignore this. Feel free to ignore this. Let's look at just this much. It says, okay, bhaiya, input array is this. Input array dot map, convert every value, transform every value through this transformation function and give me the output. So 1 will go through this transformation function and be put as the first element here. Then 2 will go through this transformation function and be put as the second value here. So on and so forth, one by one, all of these values will get transformed. And by the end of it, you have the answer array that looks like this. That is one. The other clear syntax to usually write this is you actually don't define your function separately. You just put it here. Okay, const answer equal to input dot map, and then you just give the function here. this is my transformation function. Please transform every value by passing it through this transformation function. Every value individually goes into this. How it happens is the implementation of map function. You can actually write this yourself. Take this as an assignment. Create a map function that takes two inputs, an array and a transformation callback or call it function, and transforms the array into a new one using the transformation function. Cool. Feel free to take this as an assignment to do it yourself, but you don't have to. Thankfully, JavaScript just gives it to us. We use it as a black box. Input.map transformation function gives me a transformed array output. Cool. That is one. What is the second thing we need to discuss? The second thing we need to discuss is filtering. Let's again start with the problem. What if I tell you, given an input array, give me back all the even values from it. So if the input is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the output should be 2 and 4. Cool. What's the ugly way of doing it? Harkirat, the ugly way is const new array equal to empty array, and then I just iterate over the array at dot length I plus plus, and then I'm be like, if array of I mod 2 equal to 0, new array dot push array of I. And if I now log new array, I would urge you to do this yourself. I see 2 and 4. Again, forget about this, forget this exists. Try to code it yourself. Given this function, and you don't have to worry about, filter and what it is. Given this function, how would you solve it? Given this problem statement, how would you, given an array, create a new array that only has even values from this? This is one way of doing it. There are multiple ways of doing it. But what way are we learning? We are learning the filter function that JavaScript provides you. Let's see how that works. What is the input? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What is the question? Question is, only even values should stay. Can I say, I am going to create a function, call it filtering logic, which will take all of these as input one by one, and it will return either true or false based on what the input is. So if your filtering logic wants to include something in the final array, if n modulo 2 equal to 0, what does this mean? If this is an even number, then return true, else return false. Wouldn't this be nice? If I could create a filtering logic function that takes n as an input and returns true or false based on whether n is even. I have created this function. I have the input array. Wouldn't it be nice if I can simply call a function ke bhaiya, this is the input array, this is the filtering function, please give me the final output which has the filtered values. So if the input was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the output would be 2 and 4, because this filtering logic would tell ki haan bhai, return true if it is an even value, return false if it is an odd value. Might feel counterintuitive. Okay, why are we doing this? Doesn't sound like this. This looks so much simpler to understand. I agree, but especially in React, filter you can still ignore, but map is very important. You need map in 100 different places. You can always get by without it, but this makes the syntax slightly cleaner. So would urge you to get comfortable with the syntax, and let's do that for filtering now. So first, let's write a filtering logic function or filtering logic. You can call it whatever you want. Let me call it filtering logic. What will it do? If n mod 2 equal to 0, return true, else return false. And then finally, const answer equal to filter logic, input array. No, sorry, that's not it. Const answer equal to arr dot filter filtering logic. Again, there is no global filter function. That was just a thing I was showing you. Okay, wouldn't it be nice if there is a global filter function? But global filter function or arr dot filter doesn't matter. Either way, there is a function that exists that, given an input array and given some logic to filter out values, true or false, gives you the final filtered array. If I now log answer here, and if I run this, you will see the screen says 2,4. So just these, not 2 lines of code. Of course, there's like more lines of code here, but this is conventionally considered the more clean syntax to do this versus, creating a new array like we did before. And as I said, most of the times you will not be writing this outside. You will pass the callback in like this and make it an anonymous function. This is actually the right way to do filtering. But again, the problem statement is, okay, print all the even values, then you print it like this. If the problem statement was something else, okay, given the input is a lot of users, a lot of genders, well, there are a lot of users. So Harkirat, and Raman, and Prash, return me all the users whose name starts with H. Then your filtering logic would be like, if n dot starts with H, then return true, else return false. Now if I look at the output, it gives me back Harkirat, given this input. Harkirat, what it starts with? Any string if you have. So Harkirat dot starts with H returns true. No, I haven't logged it, but if I logged it, it will return me true. So it's just another helper function that is present on the string class dot starts with. And if I look at the logic here, basically the thing to know is here is the input n could be anything. It's what the individual values of the array are. If the individual values of the array are strings, then whenever this function is called to check ke haan bhaiya, should this be filtered, should this be filtered, should this be filtered, the input here will be a string. And if the input array had numbers, then of course the filtering logic here would check whether or not these are numbers. Cool. And then you can do like number logic in there, like we've done here. Cool. So what have we learned? We learned 3 things: filter, map, and arrow functions. And maybe another thing, if you want to merge them all together, is something like this. You can actually, rather than writing function here, create an arrow function. Again, just syntactical difference for now, no other difference at least until this point. Either write it like this or write it like this. Cool. Filter we understand, map we understand, and arrow functions we understand. Great starting point. There are more such functions. These are the important ones. There's one called, so as you can see, there are so many it shows: reduce, for each, spread, not needed if for the longest time, if at all. Map is very necessary. Filter also you can ignore, but map, make sure you're comfortable with the syntax of map, understand how it works. If you want to take the assignment was create a map function that takes an array and filtering, and a transform function as input and returns the transformed array as output. If you want to take this as an assignment, feel free to. With that, I think we have done for today. And also AI gave me the answer. So yeah, this looks right. But you should code it yourself and not use an AI. Let's end it. I'll see you guys soon.